main event, Petr Yan defeating Merab Dvalishvili. What a fight. We talked about it at the beginning. Wanted to pick the brain of the great John Wood of Syndicate MMA in Las Vegas. Ask him about what transpired in the fight. He is kind enough to join us right here and now to talk about it all. And John, I really appreciate your time. Thank you for coming on. I know it's easy to come on after a win and probably a little less, a little less fun after a loss like that. So it says a lot about you, and I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd be lying if I didn't agree with you on that one. The winning part is much better, but unfortunately, losing is part of the sport, and it's a part you have to be okay with. And I try to preach that to my guys of, hey man, like this is the stuff that's going to happen. So the fact that, like I said, someone like yourself or anybody who calls and wants to talk to me about it, I just be kind of, you know. I just wouldn't feel good doing that with, like I said, you gotta kind of practice what you preach and take your lumps and so that's what we're gonna do.
So I'd like to actually start in October. Merab finds out, he asks, this is what his team has told me, his manager, Danny Rubenstein, like he wanted to be on this card, right? He finds out while he's on this show that he is going to headline this card. It will be 2 months after the Sandhagen fight, but he found out the week after. Were you okay with that? Did you want him to come back, or was there a part of you thinking this is a lot, 4 title defenses in 1 calendar year?
Yes and yes and yes. Marab is Marab, and he's a special guy. And I've said this and stated this multiple times in different spots that Marab is going to be back in the gym training and doing what Marab does either way. He's going to be back in there. He's not a guy that he lives fighting. He's not a guy that takes time off. He's in there sparring, training, helping his training partners get ready for fights. He's still doing his cage rounds. Everything is always full steam ahead. So, hindsight's always 2020. Did I think it's a lot? Did I think it was a lot? Did we all think it was a lot? Of course. But if anybody could pull it off, it would be Marab, and his work ethic and how he holds himself. Um, but yeah, uh, do I think that he, go back and try it again and do it again? I absolutely do. Do I think that, we would have different conversations doing it again? Yes, I think we would. But, these are the things, again, when you're chasing greatness, when you're chasing, legendary things, breaking records of legendary fighters. These are the risks and the things that you have to take, and that's what Merab lives for. He is a fighter's fighter. He loves fighting. He eats, breathes, sleeps it. He is one of those rare breeds that actually says he loves it and actually does love it. And sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't. And fortunately with Marab, most of the time it does work out. And this one, hats off to Peter and his team. They got the W on that. But you got to take those risks to be great.
So now that you've had almost 48 hours to digest what happened, top of mind, what went wrong? Why did this fight not go the way in which their first fight went 2.5 years ago?
There's a lot of things, and there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes, and a lot of things that I really would need to have that conversation. I have not, had that sit down with Marab yet, and I don't want to speak for him, and I don't want to speak, like I said, put things out there that are going to get misconstrued of. Well, this, he lost because of this or that. And, Marab is not an excuse guy, and I'm not going to be Marab's excuse guy, for him. He would be very upset with me if I did that. So, that conversation needs to happen first. Do I have I developed my idea and hypothesis, so to speak, of what we could have done better and how we could have done it, of course. And those are things, like I said, over the next, few weeks that we'll sit down, break down, I'm sure this week. And, there's a lot, Ariel, just like, there's a lot that goes into fighting, and it goes into fighting 4 title fights in 1 year. I can guarantee you there's always bumps and bruises and people are banged up. I'm sure Peter was. Everybody goes into a fight at this magnitude, hurt or banged up. I shouldn't say hurt, but banged up. And there's a lot of things that play into this. And um, you know, we got to, like I said, just sit back and kind of go over this. But it was Peter's night. They came in with a great game plan, and we'll get back to the drawing board. And I don't have any doubt that we can't pick that one back up.
Last week we had Sean O'Malley on the show, and I asked him how he thought the fight was going to go, and it sounded to me like he was leaning towards Merab, but he also said, given the success that Merab had in striking against Corey, he wondered if maybe he will fall in love with the striking a little bit, and that might be part of his undoing. And then in the post-fight interview, Merab mentioned something about, trying to make this a fun fight, an entertaining fight for the fans. And early on, we did see him, be committed to the striking and have some success very early on. Was all that in line with what you guys were talking about going into the fight, game plan-wise, or do you think that there is something to the fact that he just wanted to try to knock him out because he almost knocked out Corey and was starting to feel like he had that power in his hands?
Listen, there's a lot of things that get said, before fights to build up fights. Do I believe all those things? Are all those things true? Not necessarily. You don't usually lay out your game plan to the world right before, to your opponent, before you're going to go out and do that. Do I think that Rob has enjoyed getting better at striking? Of course. The guy likes to learn. He's getting better at everything. But again, this is the conversation I'd have to sit down with him before I speak on his behalf of that. Being the thing that he fell in love with striking. I don't think that's the case. Can we get back to doing, more Merabish style things? Sure, I think that's part of the game. But Merab is an evolving fighter, so there's things that as you get better and as you're learning, that you kind of throw shit at the wall and see what sticks. I don't think this is a fight where the Merab went out there with the intent, or any fight, of going out there to, I'm just gonna knock you out and stand up. I think those options and opportunities present themselves, he's gonna take them. But again, I'd have to talk to him about that. He is learning and still getting better. He got a lot better in this camp. There's some things that went on, but like I said, his skill set got better, and he's a guy that likes to go out there and try some things. So, we might have that talk where we sit back and we kind of unwind a couple things and go back to doing some different stuff. But we'll see. I don't think that was the case. That, like I said, he just fell in love with the striking, and that's why we lost the fight.
How? And by the way, have you rewatched the fight?
I have not yet.
Okay.
I usually I've replayed it 1,000 times in my head. I wanted to take a couple days. It's been a hectic couple days, but I wanted to kind of let emotionally sit back so I can watch it without feeling a certain way. But I'll probably watch it tonight or tomorrow and start breaking it down from there.
Just from watching it on television, I thought, just being honest, I thought it was 50-45 for Jan, or at worst 49-46. And it did seem, it was hard to really see or hear everything that was going on in between rounds, but it did seem like you thought he might have been up 3 rounds at one point. Do you think that that's just a matter of what you were seeing from that corner? Do you think when you watch it, you might think differently? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, obviously, looking in the corner, I've always been pretty good at kind of judging how the fight's going, and that's something I'm interested to see if what happened there. I thought that, and I will go on and say, I thought that Merab was the busier, doing more pressing, but looking at it now, Peter had the bigger moments. He was landing the bigger strikes, getting the bigger reactions, and doing the damage. The bleed, there was the blood always plays into a lot of stuff, and you don't know how that's going to go. But from everything that that I've said, a lot of people thought that was the wrong call. And in the moment, again, I think we all thought that we were pressing the action. That's something I got to go back and look at. And something, if I, like I said, if I made a mistake, then it's something I definitely need to fix, in making sure that doesn't happen. And I'm looking at objectively, but at that moment, I felt in the corner, we all felt that we were up those first couple. The third one started to get a little dicey, and then, obviously 4 and 5, I would have given to him. But yeah, it's I got to go back and take a look, and it's just one of those things. Sometimes in the heat of the moment, and perspectives, they really do. The optics of things really do play heavily in how fights are judged.
I hope you know that by asking these questions, I'm not trying to create any sort of dissension between you and Merab. Um,
Uh,
but so I saw you do an interview with Fighters Only, and you mentioned his 45-minute sparring sessions leading up to the fight. And then I saw a video on Fight Night of a young man, I forget his name, talking about sparring Merab in the morning. And this isn't new stuff, but all of this I would imagine, plus the four fights and the weight cutting and all that goes into it. 25-minute fights, 3 out of those 4 would take a toll on one's body, known as superhuman, even as machine-like as Merab is. Is it time, in your opinion, to start tinkering with these methods? Is it time for him to put less strain on his body? Because this isn't unique, as you know. Most fighters don't train this way.
well, a lot of times with Rob, with a lot of stuff he does is very unique, and we do a lot of the if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I don't know that it's broke. I think that to me the clearest sign would be the fact of 4 fights in a year in such a short time. We had 7 weeks to get ready for this fight. Technically 6 weeks, take out the week he took off after the fight and the fight week. It's just a lot, dude. It really is. So obviously after every loss, you sit back and you kind of tweak some things and do it. But his the way he does things, his process has been working very well. Again, I think you need more than one, situation, albeit a very big situation that happened here, to kind of point to things and say, hey, we need to start changing stuff. But that might be that's a conversation that we might have. It's a conversation we will have, and some things might change out of it. Again, it's Marab. He's the fighter. I'm here to kind of help him make those decisions and guide through those stuff. We went into uncharted territory doing 4 fights, 4 title fights in a year. That's a lot. It's never been done. Had we come out of that different, everybody'd sit here, the narrative would be very, very different.
Mhm.
But you got to take those risks, and it didn't go our way, and so you got to take the lumps, and everybody's going to say what they have to say, and that's okay. That's Everybody is entitled to their opinion. And obviously, like I said, the team and the group knows the work that got put in, and the visuals that we saw leading up to it. But I would think that more than anything, that would be the number one thing that I would think. Obviously that's just a lot, dude. It's a lot of stress on the body. The weight cuts alone,
Mm.
it's hard.
We know who Petr Yan is. Like, he's a former champion. Leading up to that Aljo fight, the first fight, he was looking like he was going to be one of the best bantamweight champions of all time. Just incredibly good on his feet, his technique, his tactics, all that stuff and more. That being said, that was 4.5 years ago or so. Did he surprise you on Saturday? Did you not think that he had that type of performance left in him?
No, that's no surprise at all. I'm very high on Peter Yan and his skill set, man. That guy is the best, currently the best fighter in the world. He has been one of the best, and we all know MMA is very unforgiving. You can be the best, do all the best, have the best camps and best training partners, everything, and shit can just not go your way. You can have a bad run, you can have these things that go on, and make it seem that you're not on top of your game or as good as you are. So I've never thought that Jan has kind of drifted off into no man's land. I think he's a great fighter and obviously proved it. Do I think that the trilogy happens and it goes differently? Yes, I do, and I think that, and nothing, no disrespect to him or his team. Like I said, they showed up that night. And I think it was an awesome performance. But I know that Marab can come back stronger and have a better performance than he did that night.
This is kind of irrelevant at this point, but I'm sort of hung up on it. You've been in this game a very long time. Did Merab shoot 29 times? Because they have him listed as 29 takedown attempts and only landing 2, but I feel like the way in which they're scoring these takedown attempts is different these days. I don't feel like that was 29 takedown attempts on Saturday. What do you think?
Yeah, I would. It really is. That's the problem with the MMA judging as a whole. Like, it's so it's in the eye of the beholder. Like, there is no standard of, hey, you must take somebody down and hold them down for
Right.
3 seconds. It's different. It's different every time. So I didn't feel that would be the number. But again, I'd have to go back and rewatch it, and it literally is takedowns and damage and things are judged differently every single fight. That's something we got to kind of get a grip on, of making it so that the unknowns are at least taken out of that part of it. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I'd have to go watch.
When Alex Pereira lost to Magomed Ankalaev in March, the sense was he needs some time off. He's been doing too much. Would you like the same for Merab? And what does time off mean for you? If you're in favor of that, how long would you like to see him out for?
Personally, I would love to see him take a vacation, rest up the body, heal up some things. I'd love to see him, get his mind away from it and come back as hungry. And I don't think that, I shouldn't say he's always been hungry. The level of motivation, the level of drive that he puts into everything has never wavered, but at this point in time, like I said, you're dealing with so much stuff as a champion, where you're doing 10 times the work that you normally have to do, all the press, all of the junkets, all the media, all the interviews, everything. It's so much more, so I'd love to just see him just go for a few weeks and take a vacation, go home, or sit in his house and build his barn or whatever he's looking at doing, and just relax. Do I think that's going to happen? Probably not. But we will definitely have a conversation to where, when he does come back, that it's smart, and that we're being smart, and like I said, letting some things heal up, and letting his body and his mind just kind of get right and get back into it, because I know him. He's going to come back 10 times more motivated, and he's going to do what he needs to do to get that title back.
If it was up to you, how long would he be out for? When would he come back?
I mean, I think he's capable of training, within a month, a few weeks, probably sparring. I'd like to see him just take some time off sparring more than anything. He does put in the work more than anybody I've ever seen in my life. And I'll be honest, he doesn't take a lot of damage in sparring. He really doesn't. But it's just the sheer volume of work that he's been putting in over the last year is insane. So, if I could get him out for chilling for a month and relax and take it easy, I think a month would be great. But just really just not sparring for the next month or two would be I think plenty time off.
Has he earned the right to fight for the belt in his first fight back?
I say absolutely. I think absolutely, and I think that um the work he did for the UFC, being the company man that he became and is, and willing to do, and only not even willing to do, but asking to do things that most people wouldn't want to do. I think he's earned that right, earned that respect. Dana speaks very highly of him, so I think that Hunter does too. I think that he's in that spot to maybe call that shot. And also too, he's pretty much the reason, like Peter, he accepted that fight, and he went out there and said, hey, I want to fight Peter next. And not that Peter wouldn't have gotten the fight without him. He's earned it by fighting, but I think that the favor could be returned, and I absolutely do think that he deserves it. Now, with that being said, O'Malley can go out there and spark song, and,
Yeah.
and we're talking a whole different conversation. Like, you just never know. The UFC is so good at what they do, and they have a method to how they do things. So they can shift with the breeze. So we'll see. But there's a lot that goes into it. I think that trilogy will happen. I do think it will happen this year, and I do kind of think that it will probably be next.
What do you make of some of the things that Jan is saying, which is essentially like he should go fight some other people, and I want, some of that rhetoric that he said at the post-fight press conference?
Listen, man, again, when you lose, you got to take your lumps. Marab is a funny guy and posted a lot of funny stuff and said and done a lot of funny things, and he's got a great sense of humor. And um, when someone has their moment like Peter had, you got to just kind of roll with it. Are those things actually going to happen? Are those things, does he get to make those calls and those decisions? No, the UFC makes that decision. The UFC will make that call, just like they always do, and like we all know that they do. So when someone's doing that, he's earned the right to poke fun. He's earned the right to make those calls. He's the champ right now, so you just got to kind of roll with it. Do I think that there's any validity to any of that stuff? No, but again, when you got to take your turn when it comes around, and like I said, take your lumps, and be a man and stand there with in victory or defeat, and do what you got to do.
Two other quick topics that I want to ask you about, and then we'll let you go again. Thank you very much for the time. I have started to see some footage of you working with the legendary Gina Carano, who we hold near and dear to our hearts. Been covering her since her debut way back when we were all much younger, and now here she is all of a sudden in Las Vegas training with you. What is she training for, John? What is going on here? Her last fight, August of 2009.
Yeah, so I've known Gina and Kevin Ross for 20 plus years. Kevin used to live with me, and Gina, they've been around in and out of the gym for years and years and years. So I got a call a few months ago that she wanted to kind of get back in shape and get back at it, and had a little itch to scratch and see where it went. So I said, absolutely. There's such good people. Her and Kevin are just amazing people. And why wouldn't you want to have a living legend? That's somebody who paved the way for a lot of women and a lot of fighters in general, man or woman. She deserves the respect that that she's earned, and it's awesome having her in the gym. And who knows where it's going to go?
Does she want to fight again?
I definitely think that there is a little itch that is, to do that.
Wow,
So
wow, wow.
I think that there's, when you're a real fighter and Gina's a real fighter, it never goes away. And then once you kind of get back in the gym and start realizing, oh shit, I can still do this. And she can, man. She's still got some pop. And, we're just, like I said, scratching the surface right now, getting back into it. But yeah, I think that there's some thoughts there.
Okay, that was actually going to be my last question on her. How is she looking in the gym, on the mitts, everything that you're doing together?
Great, man. She's been there for I think about a month or two now, a couple months, doing 2 days, just kind of getting back into shape, and she's putting in the work. I got her working with some of the girls, and we do a lot of mitt work and control partner drills, and starting to play around with some of the touch sparring and stuff. And she looks great, man. I can tell you this right now, she still hits and kicks like a mule.
Wow.
I would not want to get hit or kicked by her. That drive is still there. That competitive nature is super there. Like Gina is, I have to like settle her down a lot when she's working, in the drills with the girls. She gets excited, so I see that fire there, and the willingness to get back in shape and to do it. So I really, I'm impressed. I'm impressed with her mental state and her mindset towards it, and I think you're going to see some interesting things.
Gina versus Ronda?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay. I'm not trying to get you in trouble here. Do you want to ask you just quickly about Zhang Wei Li? Obviously, it didn't go her way a few weeks ago. Would you like to see her now go back to 125 to get that belt? 115 to get that belt.
I mean, personally, yes. Personally, yes. I think everybody, she's kind of in that situation where she's maybe too big for 115, but a little too small for 125 at the top. Trust me, there's a lot of wins that can be had at 125. Obviously, we just went through that situation with Shevchenko, who holds that belt and is currently the best, female walking the planet. We could have that fight again, and I think it could look a lot different. But it really kind of just depends on what she wants, her mindset. Where her mindset is and what she wants to do with her career. In the last few years of, I imagine going out as champion would be a big thing. And I think that, obviously dropping back down pays that way pretty quickly. Her and McKenzie, I think, would be a great fight. But yeah, it goes back to the old weight cutting thing. It sucks as you get a little bit older, and the more you do this, the more weight cuts, the more it takes out of your body, and the more you start thinking, hey, I don't want to cut this much weight anymore, and so I'll move up. And sometimes it just doesn't work out. But yeah, I'd love to see her personally go back and get that title.
By the way, saw you on Tim Welch's podcast. Cheeky move on your part, wearing the Merab Dvalishvili shirt. That's tremendous work on your part.
To be fair, I did not know that was Sean. I thought at first it was Henry. I didn't pay any attention to it. I just thought I really like the shirt. I wear that shirt all the time. But yeah, so I guess that was kind of maybe a dick move. But
No, listen, like, come on. It's all needling. It's all good. All's fair in love and fight promotion.
Yeah, for sure. They got me back as soon as I got off the show. They started taking jabs at me though. So
Ah.
I think he won in the end.
Well, thank you for coming on. Really do appreciate it. Again, great insight. We appreciate it very much. And I know it's not very fun after a loss of that magnitude, but you come on after wins. And so just wanted to see, how you were feeling, and the insight was tremendous. So don't be too hard on yourself. There's always next weekend, right? I'm sure there's another one right around the corner. So
This weekend, Luana Santos this weekend.
there you go. There you go. So it's on to the next. The train never stops. You might get a little bit of a break here during the holidays. Happy holidays to you and the family. Appreciate it very much, John. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Ariel. Always an honor.
Thank you. There he is, Coach John Wood of Syndicate MMA, one of the best in the game. Great insight and tremendous stuff on Gina Carano. I would love it. Thanks for watching this video. Before you go, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button for us. Also, give us a thumbs up, leave a nice comment. These things go a long way. And while you're here, do check out the rest of the channel. We've got live shows and full interviews, clips, and a whole lot more. We're doing big things here, and we appreciate your support very much.